This is the review for the Chapter 3 Quiz 1. The first couple questions, you need to memorize this formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This formula will not be given to you. You need to memorize that formula. Remember that it's not y squared and x squared, or y to the first power and x to the first power. These numbers are below the letters. It's just to tell the difference between the two x's and the two y's. So when you go to take a look at this problem, you have the point -5, 6, and 9, 3. Remember that all points are always written x comma y. So the -5 is an x, the 6 is a y, the 9 is an x, and the 3 is a y. -5 comma 6 is your first point. So these get ones. 9 comma 3 is your second point. So these get twos. Now you're going to draw your fraction bar and put your two minus signs. That fraction bar and those minus signs are part of the formula. They are always there. So now we just need to go through and put the numbers into the correct spots. Our formula says y2. Our y2 value is 3, so that goes in the y2 spot. Minus y1. Our y1 value is 6. Over x2 minus x1. Our x2 value is 9. Our x1 value is -5. So now you're just going to subtract going across the top. 3 minus 6 is -3. 9 minus -5, you could just type it right into your calculator, and that is 14. If you could reduce the fraction, you should, but this one doesn't reduce. So let's go ahead and do another one. All points are written x comma y. So 5 is an x, 6 is a y, 7 is an x, 10 is a y. 5 comma 6 is your first point, so these get ones. 7 comma 10 is your second point, these get twos. You can draw your fraction bar and put your two minus signs. Our formula says y2 minus y1, 10 minus 6. Over x2 minus x1, 7 minus 5. Subtract going across the top, 10 minus 6 is 4, 7 minus 5 is 2. You need to reduce that fraction to lowest terms or simplest form. 2 goes into both of them, so divide by 2 and divide by 2, so we get 2 over 1. You could just leave that as a fraction. So you'll have 2 questions like that on your quiz. You do have to memorize that formula. In the next part, you have to identify your slope. Now remember, slope is always written as a fraction. The top number is how many you go up or down. The bottom number is how many you go over to the right. We always look at slope just like we're reading a sentence, going from left to right, just like we read a sentence. So we're going to start out here and go to here. How many do we go up? How many do we go over? So we're going up 0 over 1, 2, 3. You can go from the second point to the third point if you wanted to. So now we're going to there, up 0 over 1, 2, 3. So we're going up 0 over 3. That is our slope. Now, in question number 4, this is sort of a unique, it's a special case. This one you can't figure out just by doing how many up or down and how many over to the right, because we don't go over to the right at all. It is a vertical line. Remember, in class, I had you draw a little person falling off the edge of the cliff. They are yelling, no, all right, because they can't stand on the edge of the cliff there. They got blown off. This is no slope. You actually write the words for this one as no slope. When it is a vertical line, it is no slope. In questions 5 and 6, we need to figure out the slope, figure out the y-intercept, and then write the equation of the line. Remember, your equation of the line always has to look like this, where you have y equals mx plus b. So you're going to get answers. You're going to get answers like y equals 2x plus 1 or something like that. So let's take a look at this first one. The first thing that I would do is I would find the y-intercept. Where does the line cross the y-axis? All right, where does the line cross the y-axis? It crosses it right here. That point is 0, 5. Remember, we always have to write the y-intercept as 0, Now you need to figure out your slope, just like we did in the previous problems. We're going down 1, 2, 3 over 1. Down 1, 2, 3 over 1. We always go from left to right, just like we read a sentence. So our slope is -3 over 1. Now we have to write our equation. Your slope goes in front of the x. Your y-intercept goes after the x. Because this is a +5, we're going to write +5. And there's your equation of the line. If you wanted to write it like this, instead, y equals 3x plus 5, instead of making that -3 over 1 as a fraction, that's perfectly fine as well. Take a look at the second one. First thing that we want to do is find our y-intercept, where the line crosses the y-axis. The line crosses the y-axis right here at -3. So it is 0, -3. Going from left to right, just like we read a sentence, we're going up 1, 2, 3 over 2. Up 1, 2, 3 over 2. So up 3 over 2. That's the number that goes in front of your x. And then we have a -3, so we're going to write -3 after it. In question number 7, you need to graph the line using the chart method and then check the solution. So again, you want to choose 0, 1, and 2 for your x value. You can choose any numbers that you want. However, when there's no fraction in front of the x, you just want to choose 0, 1, and 2 to make your life easy. We're going to take these numbers, 0, 1, and 2, and sub them in for x. So instead of x plus 3, we're going to have 0 plus 3. Instead of x plus 3, we're going to have 1 plus 3. Instead of x plus 3, we're going to have 2 plus 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. 2 plus 3 is 5. Remember, you put your answers to whatever that middle column is in the y column. When you go to graph it, very important that you remember your x value is how many we go over. Your y value is how many we go up or down. When we go to graph points, we always start from right here at 0, 0, right in the middle. So our first point is 0, 3, starting in the middle, over 0, up to 3. Our second point is 1, 4, starting in the middle, over to 1, up to 4. 2, 5, starting in the middle, over to 2, up to 5. Now that we have our 3 dots, we have to connect our dots. They should form a straight line. They don't form a straight line. If they form some sort of crooked line, you did something wrong. And we have to label the line. So y equals x plus 3. You just take whatever your equation is and label it. Don't forget to put arrows on the ends of your lines. Now in the third part, we have to do a check. X comma y is how all points are written. So 8 is our x, 12 is our y. All that we're going to do is take our equation and do a check. Instead of y equals, we have 12 for y. We're given that in the question. Instead of x plus 3, we're going to have 8 plus 3. 8 plus 3 is 11. Does 12 equal 11? No, it does not. Therefore, our answer is no. If they don't check, your answer is no. If they do check, your answer is yes. In question number 8, we have the fraction 1/3. Because we have the fraction 1/3, we want to use 0, 3, and 6. You always want to use multiples of the denominator. If we had the fraction 1/2, we would want to choose 2, 0, 2, and 4 because we want to choose multiples of the denominator. But here we're choosing 0, 3, and 6. For 1/3, you can write the fraction 1/3, but when you type it into the calculator, you have to do 0.333, fill up that whole screen with 3s. If you only type 1 or 2 or 3 3s, you're going to get the wrong answer. All right, you got to fill up the whole screen with 3s. So 1/3 times 0 plus 1. 1/3 times 3 plus 1. 1/3 times 6 plus 1. you have to take those x values and sub them in for x. So again, 0.333 times 0 plus 1 is 1. 0.333 times 3 plus 1 is 2. And 0.333 times 6 plus 1 is 3. Again, remember your x value is how many go over, your y value is how many go up or down. So when we go to graph points, we always start from right in the middle. 0, 1, starting in the middle, over to 0, up to 1. 3, 2, starting in the middle, over to 3, up to 2. 6, 3, starting in the middle, over to 6. This is where 6 is at the end, over to 6, up to 3. It should form a straight line. These do. Connect the dots, put your arrows, and label your line. In the third part, we are given the point 12, 13. 12 is your x, 13 is your y. So we're going to sub it into the equation and see if it checks. If it checks, then it's a yes. If it doesn't check, then it's a no. So I'm subbing in my 13 for my y and my 12 for my x. You can type this right into the calculator. 1/3 times 12 plus 1 gives you 5. Does 13 equal 5? No, it does not. Again, if they matched, then it would be a yes. The next two questions on your quiz are using the slope y-intercept method. We need to identify the slope, identify the y-intercept. Your slope is the number that's in front of your x. Now, this number in front of the x, your slope is always written as a fraction. So when we have the number 2 there, we want to write it over 1 as a fraction. So that is really 2 over 1. That really means up 2 over 1. If it was negative, then it would be down 2 over 1. When we go over, remember, we always go over to the right. We always go from left to right, just like we read a sentence. Your y-intercept is 0, comma, whatever your plus or minus is. So it's 0, comma, 1. Your first dot is always somewhere on the y-axis. So starting at 0, 1, we're starting right here. We're going to go up 2 over 1, put a dot, up 2 over 1, put a dot. Connect the dots, put your arrows, and label your line. For the second one, our slope is the number that's in front of the x, so that's negative 1/3. That really means down 1 over 3. And remember, we always go over to the right. And our y-intercept is 0, comma, negative 2. Your first dot is always somewhere on the y-axis. So 0, negative 2 is right here. We just look for that number on the y-axis. That's where we're starting. Starting from there, down 1 over 3, down 1 over 3. Connect the dots, put your arrows, and label your line. In question number 11, Amy solved 42 equations in 6 minutes. Find how many equations she solved per minute and graph her total amount per minute for the 6 minutes. So the first thing that we need to find is our rate. Remember that we always divide to find our rate. All right, we always divide to find our rate. So we have 42 equations in 6 minutes. We're going to do 42 divided by 6. That is 7 equations per minute. When you go to write your equation, you always have a y equals and an x. Whatever your rate is goes in front of the x and for your equation. So we have y equals 7x. We never are going to have any pluses or minuses after it. So now what I would do is I would do a little table. All right, use the chart method and do a little table to find our points. We're looking for the first 6 minutes. We always start off at 0. So we got to figure out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Subbing in a 0 into that equation. Instead of 7 times x, we have 7 times 0, which is 0. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 5 is 35. And 7 times 6 is 42. So now that we have our points, now we got to graph it. Every graph has to have a title. So let's call it Amy's equations. Time always goes at the bottom, all right? Elements of time always go at the bottom. In this case, we have minutes. We need to label what these are at the bottom. This is minutes. 0 always goes at the thick black line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Going up along the side is the number of equations. And now you have your choice what you want to count by. First of all, 0 always goes at the thick black line. Our biggest number is 42. Could I count by 10s if I wanted to? Sure. Could I count by 5s? No, well, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Nope, 40 would be the top there. It wouldn't fit. All right. If you want to make your life easy, though, count by the rates going up along the side. It's going to make it a lot easier to graph. So I'm going to count by 7s because that's my rate. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. So now I'm ready to graph. When we go to graph, you want to graph the numbers from your table. 0, 0. In 0 minutes, she solves 0 equations. In 1 minute, she solves 7 equations. 2 minutes, she solves 14. 3 minutes, she solves 21. 4, she solves 28. 5 is 35. And 6 is 42. Connect your dots. Put your arrow. We only put an arrow in the upper right. We don't put one down there because it would keep on going and we would have negative minutes, which doesn't make any sense, and negative equations. How many equations would you solve after 15 minutes? All you have to do is take that 15 and sub it in for x. 7 times 15 is 105. Let's take a look at the last one. Same type of question, except this time they give you the data. Those are the only points that you are going to graph. The following table represents the number of days plants were watered and the total number of plants watered. So the first question says, calculate the number of plants watered per day. Remember, when you go to find your rate, we want to divide to find your rate. I'm just going to make my life easy and choose the 2 smallest numbers. 24 divided by 2. That is 12 plants per day. You could have chosen any of them. If you chose 5 and 60, 60 divided by 5 is 12. 96 divided by 8 is 12. 108 divided by 9 is 12. 120 divided by 10 is 12. When we go to do our graph, we always have a y equals and an x. Just take that 12 and stick it in front of the x. How many plants were watered after 16 days? Just take that 16, sub it in for x. So we would have 12 times 16, which gives you 192. Now we're ready to do our graph. So all graphs need a title. Let's just call it plants. Elements of time always go at the bottom. They tell you right in the chart that we're using days. 0 always goes at the thick black line. Now, this is the single biggest mistake that people make. A lot of people will go and put 2, 5, 8, 9, and 10 only. You can't do that. You need to be consistent counting across the bottom. So you have to count by 1s. All right, we have to count by 1s going across the bottom. Going up along the side, that's where you get your choice what you want to count by. 120 is our biggest number. Could we count by 20s going up along the side? Sure. Could we count by 25s? Sure. Could we count by 30s? Sure. I'm going to make my life as easy as possible and count by the rate going up along the side. So I'm going to count by 12s. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96, 108, and 120. I need my label. This is the number of plants. So now I'm ready to graph. The only dots that you're going to graph are the ones from the table. 2, 24, 5 and 60, 8 and 96, 9 and 108, 10 and 120. Those are the only 5 dots that you should graph. You do have to start at 0, 0 when you go to draw your line, because in 0 days she would plant, or she would water 0 plants. Only put your arrow in the upper right, because you can't have it in the bottom left, because you can't have negative days or negative plants. That's what your quiz looks like. Make sure that you memorize that formula from the beginning: y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1.